Hello everyone, my name is Ian and you're watching Big Rock Media. I don't normally do such personal videos on my channel, but I have some really personal stories to talk about today and I think they're really important, so I hope you'll bear with me. I want to start by telling you a story about my dad. So my dad grew up in a beach town, and when he was really young, he became super enamored with the sport of surfing. He became a passionate and very talented surfer from a young age. And all through his teens and 20s and into his 30s, he was able to travel around the world to amazing surf breaks and really have these incredible experiences. And of course, he had to come home and work and earn a living and do all those types of things. Surfing was really key to my dad's life and his identity. When he talks about surfing today, you can just tell how important it was to him, how meaningful those experiences and memories were, and really how they helped define him as a person and helped define his view of the world. Of course, as what happens to most of us, he met an amazing partner. They ended up getting married, my mom. And when they were in their early 30s, my mom really wanted to have kids. So when they were in their mid-30s, they got pregnant with me. I was their first kid. Once my parents started a family, and once my dad now had that additional responsibility in his life, what he found was that he had a very difficult time making time and energy and effort to put into his hobbies, his former hobbies. They had to move somewhere else to buy a house, to start a family that was more affordable. He had to really work full time in order to pay the bills and make ends meet. We lived week to week. We were not a well-off family by any means. So what happened to my dad is that he stopped surfing. He stopped pursuing his hobby, his passion, his interest, the thing that was so intertwined with his self-identity. And what ended up happening was that he really became resentful and sort of bitter and angry towards us as his kids and towards his wife as well, because he felt that having the responsibility of a family meant that he couldn't pursue his hobby anymore. And looking back on that, I think it was a really unfortunate and kind of unfair situation. Nobody ever told him that he had to stop pursuing his hobby. Yeah, it might have been harder, and I'm not discounting the struggles that my parents went through to raise my sister and I. I'm certainly not doing that. It really wasn't fair to anybody because it ended up hurting him and hurting everybody around him. All right, so now I need to talk a little bit about my own story and who I am. So when I was 11 years old, I was given, or sort of inherited, a motorcycle from my aunt and uncle. They were nice enough to find it in their barn. It was an old Honda C70 Passport scooter. I'll never forget that bike. I really wish I still had that bike today. But anyway, my parents, even though they couldn't afford it, and my aunt and uncle, they helped out. They helped me get it fixed up, tires, fix the carburetor. It was leaking fuel, things like that. Long story short, I ended up falling in love with riding. First, I started riding around our property. We grew up in the country on acres of land, and you could just ride around the property. But even well before I was licensed, I started going out and riding in the hills and learning how to ride dirt bikes. I progressed to a series of dirt bikes, eventually dual sports and adventure bikes, to sort of ended up getting me to where I am today. I've struggled with mental health my whole life, starting when I was a kid. I was depressed, and at times I was even suicidal. Motorcycling for me became an escape from the kids at school who were making fun of me, an escape from my own self-doubt, an escape from my obesity and my health problems. It helped me connect to the world and connect to nature in a way that I never had understood before. It allowed me to recenter myself and find myself and sort of find some identity as a human being, other than an overweight, nerdy kid who just got made fun of every day in school. I also had my share of physical health problems. When I was in high school, I got very sick. I was sick for a pretty long time, and I was in the hospital for quite a while and ended up having surgery. I have something called Crohn's disease. If you've heard of it, basically it's a digestive illness, and it's an inflammation, it's an autoimmune disease that attacks your digestive system. So I've had a lot of my intestinal tract removed surgically because they had to do it to save my life. Some people have commented in my videos, you look tired, you look sick, or are you taking care of yourself, things like that. The truth is, yeah, I am sick. I'm always sick, and I'm always tired, and I very rarely feel good. That's just the way it is. That's what I have to live with. There's no cure for the disease that I have. Now, I do everything I can to take care of myself. I eat really well. I exercise a lot. I go outside. I invest in my activities and my self-care. and I do everything possible to ensure that my disease stays in remission as much as possible. The reason I bring up the physical health problems is that in a way, I'm kind of glad that I got sick and got saddled with this illness, because it reset my perspective on what's important in life. It made me realize that the cliche about how short life is actually true. You know, we all go to bed thinking that tomorrow's going to be the same, that you're going to have the same opportunities that you did yesterday, and that life goes on and that you're going to be healthy and feel good and you're going to be able to do all these things. But for a lot of people, they wake up and that's suddenly not true. So it really helped reset my perspective, and really I think helped me do a lot of growing up at a young age, which had its own downsides as well. I certainly admit that. So as I went through my physical health struggles, riding became a way for me to deal with that as well. I never stopped riding motorcycles. It continued to be a huge passion and a huge way for me to channel my stress. It allowed me to deal with the stressful career that I've had for a long time, deal with issues in my family. It just was always a way for me to go out and recenter myself and sort of come back to who I am as a person. So throughout my 20s, I was really lucky to have so many great rides, so many great experiences, so many great trips on different motorcycles, rides with my friends on dirt bikes, or touring rides on the street across the US. I've had moments riding motorcycles where everything came together. It was the perfect road, it was the perfect corner, the perfect bike, the perfect sky, the perfect clouds. If you ride a bike, I think you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes things come together and they create moments in your memories that will be with you forever. There's an old saying that 4 wheels move the body, but 2 wheels move the soul. And after having some stints with some sports cars, I really do find that it's true. There's nothing that replaces the experience of riding a motorcycle. So anyway, when I was 28 years old, I was very, very fortunate to meet the woman who became my wife a few years later. Extremely fortunate. I have the best wife in the world. I really do. When we hit our mid-30s, we really started to think about, should we have a family? Should we have kids? So we started trying to have kids. And about 2 years ago, we found out that my wife was pregnant. So we were very, very happy. And then about a year ago, our daughter Sierra was born. We are incredibly blessed and fortunate to have a beautiful, healthy baby girl. And it's been a life-changing experience, and one that I would do again in a heartbeat, even though I did have my reservations at first. So after we had the baby, I started to think a lot more hard about, is it safe to continue riding? Can I put myself at that kind of risk? Not only the risk of being in an accident, but also the expense of this hobby. It's not the cheapest thing in the world. And yes, I've worked hard on multiple careers in my life and done things in a certain way that I can afford to do this. But still, you could put that money to something else, right? So I really had to start to think about these things. The past year has been very difficult for a lot of us, for a lot of you, and for me and my wife as well. Changes to our jobs, changes in our families, dealing with the global pandemic, bringing a baby into the world, trying to start this business, this YouTube channel, while in addition to doing my career that I've had for 15 years. It's been a tough year. And so about 5 months ago, I said, you know what, I'm burnt out. I'm burnt out of everything. And so what I ended up using sort of as a scapegoat for that was I said, well, I'm going to quit riding for a while. I'm going to take a break from riding. So over these past 5 months, I haven't ridden. And you've seen that in my videos. But I am glad that I took this time off, because it's given me time to reflect on what is it about riding motorcycles that I love, and why is it so important to me. I think there's a few things that I really didn't understand about my relationship with motorcycling. One is, I don't think I appreciated the incredible mental health benefits that riding actually does provide. What I found is that when I stopped riding for a long period of time, I didn't feel like myself anymore. I wasn't having those moments of focus, those moments of connection when you're on the bike and everything's happening right. It's almost like meditation. I wasn't getting that, and that was affecting how I felt. It was affecting my mental health and my physical health too, I think. The other thing I started to realize was that I was becoming like my dad. I was starting to use my family as a crutch, as an excuse, and saying, well, I have a baby, I have a wife, that's the reason I can't ride, and I'm going to be grumpy and I'm going to sit around and have these complaints. So it really dawned on me, I'm becoming like my dad was. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to go down that road. I need to retain some sense of my former life before I got married, before I had kids. It's important to me. It's important to who I am as a person. And if I lose that, I'm never going to forgive myself. And it's not fair to my family to have something to hold against them like that for the rest of their life. It's not fair to anybody. Is motorcycling risky? Yeah. I'll be the first one to admit that. It absolutely is. You can get hit by a truck, you can get taken out by a deer, you can high side your bike because you're riding like an idiot, you can ride into a guardrail. I was riding on Angeles Crest Highway several years back. Sport bike passed me. A few seconds later, he went into the guardrail, died. The rider passed away. And I had to sit there and watch the paramedics work on this. That was a tough experience. That was one of the toughest experiences I've had as a rider, to see someone pass away like that. And it really made me think, gosh, you know, that could have been me. Of course, I don't ride like that. At least I don't think that I do. But still, that's a very tough thing to go through. There's things you can do to help mitigate the risk, right? You can wear proper riding gear. You can take rider education. You can always ride sober and well rested. You can ride with people who don't have a big ego and aren't going to make you ride beyond your limits. You can slow down when you get older. You know what? It's okay to slow down. You don't have to race everybody. It's not a competition. This is not a pissing contest to see who can ride the fastest. That's just going to be on a course to get you killed if that's the way that you ride with your friends. The other thing you can do is you can get life insurance. Just in case something were to happen to you, your family would be protected. But the other thing I want to talk about with the risk of riding is that this is not the only risky hobby that there is. There's a lot of other risky sports and other activities you can engage in. And I really think that it's also risky to not do anything. If you think about it, isn't it risky to sit in front of the TV and eat Doritos and cheeseburgers and, you know, get diabetes or get heart disease or get cancer or whatever, because you're not spending enough time outside getting exercise, being active and getting those mental health benefits? I think there's a big risk to that too. The number one killer in the US is what? Heart disease, something like that, totally preventable. It's not people dying from crashing a motorcycle. And if you do the sport safely, it can be very, very safe. I've ridden over 150,000 miles with very, very few incidents. Only a couple minor crashes where I did end up breaking my leg and my ankle when I was in college. So I don't have all the answers. I don't have the conclusions. I wish I could tell you that, yeah, it's worth the risk, or you know what, no, it's not worth the risk and you should stop riding. But I don't have that answer. That's something that you have to look within here to figure out. But I want to ask you as my audience, as the viewers of this video, of this channel, what do you all think? Whether you're a spouse of someone who rides, whether you're a rider, do you have these conversations in your family? You know, what does your spouse think about you going out riding motorcycles? What do your children think? And do you think it's an acceptable risk to take? How do you feel about it? Let's have a discussion about this down below in the comments section, because I think this is an aspect of motorcycling that not enough moto vloggers really talk about. So I want to open up this subject and talk about it because it's been weighing really heavily on me. Now I've shared it with you, so let's try to have a conversation out there. When I think about my future, I absolutely think about the experiences, the memories that I want to make with my wife and with my daughter. But I also think just as much about the experiences I want to have with myself as a person, to continue to develop my own identity, to pursue my passions, to have those incredible rides to amazing places. Because if I don't do that, I'm not being fair to myself and to my family, to not take that self-care for myself so I can be the best husband and the best father that I can possibly be. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video.